Follow Paddy Power on Snapchat. The username is @ThePaddyPower, and we promise there won't be any boring snaps about gigs, the weather, or the gym.
Hello there, a warm welcome along to the Racing Post Football Postcast. I'm Bruce Millington, and joining me this week are Mark Langdon and Dan Childs from the Racing Post, as well as Paddy Power's Malachy Rooney. Right then, what have we got? The domestic action takes a little pause as we get stuck into a new novel alternative to international friendlies. It's called the Nations League. The boys will explain what it is, how it all works. We end up with an outright winner, so we might get some tips. But it basically just means that the friendlies are now a little bit more competitive. Everyone is playing someone of similar standard to them, so hopefully it'll be decent. And the good news is, for those of you who, like me, are absolutely sick of watching tennis on your website and the USPGA on some obscure service, it's all on Sky Sports. That's how it should be. Right, before we get stuck into the matches, we will do our 6 questions the lads get 2 each, and then get to answer the one they wish they had been asked. We will start with Dan Childs, who is 3 parts Spurs fan, 1 part Watford fan. Is Watford's fine start to the season, Dan, just a flash in the pan, or can they go on and be, if not Leicester, then Burnley?
Yeah, I think the top of their ambitions would be to maybe do a Burnley. I mean, I was looking at the prices after the weekend, and I think they are sort of jockeying for joint favouritism in betting without the top 6 now. I mean, that would still be a hell of an achievement. We're only 4 games in, but I've watched Watford's 2 of their home games this season, the Spurs game and the Palace game. And they're playing well under Grazia. I've mentioned before, I do rate him as a manager. I said this after last season, and they're having a bit more luck with injuries. The last couple of seasons, they've had terrible injury problems. Most of them
now they're just inflicting terrible injury problems.
Yeah,
Capoose. That was absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, it was a very
go on anyway.
Challenge. But no, I think Capoue actually and Doucouré have been the key to a lot of what they're doing. They've been very, very good on the ball, and their work rate's fantastic in there. They've also got a bit of quality either side as well. Will Hughes and Pereira are very good technically.
You like Pereira, don't you?
I like Pereira. I liked him for a long time. He's another one though. He's had a lot of injury problems since he come to Watford. We've seen him in flashes. Now he's fully fit. Looks a real player, as he always was when they bought him. To be honest, he came with a big reputation. But the front 2 is very important as well. Andre
Deeney's
Gray.
lost a bit of pudding, hasn't he?
Deeney's lost a stone in weight. I think he was fit last season, but it was a different type of fitness. He almost got obsessed. He was doing a lot of work. He was training with Anthony Joshua, and there was almost a competition. As he was trying to be like look like a strong man and a bully type striker. Grazia, I think, had a word with him and said, "You need more, physical, a bit more mobility about your game. You don't want to be the Akinfenwa of the Premier League, if you like." So, and he does look sharper for it. And Andre Gray's look decent as well. I mean, whether they can carry it on. I think they could be in a group of clubs, the likes of Leicester, Wolves, pushing for top half, and the pinnacle, as you say, maybe to do a Burnley and get 7th spot.
I think they're 4 to 6 with Paddy Power to be in the top half. Mark, I'm going to read out a list of Paddy Power's Young Player of the Year prices, and then you can tell me who the value is. Indeed, we may not have named them. 5 to 1 Raheem Sterling, 7 to 1 Keita, 15 to 2 Dele Alli and Jesus, 9 Sane, 10 Bernardo Silva. I thought he was about 28.
Yeah. Well, it's the same with Naby Keita.
Well, and Richarlison qualifies, believe it or not. I always had him down as a gnarly old sort of late 20s.
Yeah, he's had an old life, isn't he, Richarlison? No doubt about that.
14 Maddison, 18 Neves, 20 Joe Gomez, 20 Sessegnon, 22 TAA, and 25 Bar.
Yeah, I mean this. Sane won it last year, but more often than not, if you look back at past winners, and this question's been thrown on me, so I haven't got a list of them in front of me, but I've studied the market before. It usually goes to a breakthrough English act where possible. I think we've seen Dele Alli, Cole Walker has won it. There's been quite a few, even some surprising names, maybe big name foreigners that haven't gone on to win it. So from that point of view, I'm looking at somebody like Joe Gomez at Liverpool. Everybody's going on about how Van Dijk has improved Liverpool's defence, and he has. I think Gomez has been really good alongside him. Maddison would be the other one.
Player, isn't he?
He's got a nice touch about him. He plays in a Leicester team where, even though he's young and he's just come into the Premier League, they are building the kind of side around him, really. He plays an important position. They would be two. If it's going to be a foreigner, I think Neves has got as good a chance as sort of anybody there, really. So there's 3 at price. It's probably, if you're going for one, Maddison is would fit the profile of, you know, the next Dele Alli maybe type character.
Okay, Maliki, who has had the best of the early skirmishes this season, the bookies or the punters?
Probably the punters. It kind of has been 50-50 really since we started. We thought we were set up for a bad weekend there, just this weekend gone by, but then the Spurs result was a fantastic result for us. I wouldn't say it's been either way, to be honest with you, really. It depends on who you've been backing, but I mean, Liverpool have won their opening games. They've started so well, and they are probably the most popular selection every single week. But a lot of people will back them on the handicaps as well. I mean, they won the matches, but they didn't cover the handicap against Brighton. They didn't cover it in their last match either against Leicester. So from that point of view, they wouldn't be the worst result for us, really. I'd say it's 50-50 at the moment.
And have you managed to establish who the teams are that the Asian market likes and dislikes, Malcolm?
Yeah, so again, it's still quite early in the season. So when it's only 3-4 matches in, it kind of, everything's a little bit up in the air. It takes usually 5-6 games before that starts. But there is a lot of support for Watford, really, and there's a lot of support against Arsenal in a lot of their matches. Huddersfield don't seem to be fancied at all either. I think they were rated worse than Cardiff at home in their match. So possibly a bit of value in them to be the worst team in the league or the team to finish bottom. But it's so far it's been anti-Arsenal, anti-Huddersfield and probably pro-Watford.
Okay. Dan, International Week is often a time for people to reassess the anti-post position and maybe have a look through the markets, and there's certainly loads up on all the bookies' websites. Paddy Power got plenty up there. They're even doing, which I'm very impressed with, is the PFA Team of the Year by position, so you can back a defender or a midfielder to make the team. That's very interesting. But if you were opening a fresh anti-post position right now, Dan, what would it be?
On what, on anything?
Anything you like.
Ooh,
Any
blimey.
team you haven't backed and you thought, do you know what, I must get round to having a bet on them.
Oh, blimey. Trying to think I'll tell you what, in the Championship, I know the Championship well. Brentford have really impressed me, and I would say they're a contender in a tight league to even go and win the thing.
Okay.
I look at even the way they've coped recently without Mopai, who's been suspended for 3 games. Him and Watkins up front going to score them a lot of goals. They create so many chances. All the game when they played against Forest, who were my pre-season tip in the Championship in the last game, won 2-1, but absolutely dominated the game, even without, as I say, Mopai, who was suspended. I think they'll go close to automatic promotion in the Championship.
Okie doke. Mark, who will win the National League? No, the Nations League.
Yeah,
the
National League.
Let alone explain what it is.
I'll tell you what, League hopefully filed. But
before you come up with your selection, can you just give us a tiny, really sort of 30-second idiot's guide to how it works?
So there's four leagues within the Nations League. In League A, where you've got the best 12 teams according to the rankings, they're playing in 4 groups of 3. The idea is the winners of them 4 groups play off next summer in semi-finals and final. The team that finishes bottom are relegated to the B League. B has got promotion and relegation. C has got promotion and relegation. League D has only got promotion. Also, the important thing for Leagues B, C and D is if you don't qualify via the usual method for the European Championship, if you win your league and then the playoff from that league, you will get a qualification spot in the next European Championship. So that means somebody from League D, a Luxembourg, a Georgia, Belarus, somebody like that, will be playing at the European Championship. So there's something on every game for virtually every team.
It's quite good though, isn't it?
I think it's much better than international friendlies. There's 2 complaints people have against international matches. One is too many friendlies, and the other is that you're playing against teams not at your level. So England, San Marino, or something like that. This pits teams theoretically against teams at a level, and I think if you have a look at the betting, most of the games are competitive, which you don't normally get. We don't know yet whether the managers will take it seriously, and maybe winning the Nations League isn't that big a deal. But I mean, if you're, say, England, I mean, what have you won in you won one World Cup, that was a couple of generations ago. Why would you not want to win it? No. I don't understand. If you beat, if you come for a group that's got Croatia and Spain, and then let's say you beat Italy in the semi-final and France in the final, I mean, it's probably harder than if you won the World Cup. So I don't understand why there would be any negativity. I was listening to the debate on Sky Sports last night, and Gordon Strachan was really up for it. As a former manager, saying just how much he thinks that this will benefit everybody, and he spoke a lot of sense actually on sort of why you would want to win it. And even if you're not getting promoted or relegated, it gives you points, for your coefficient. And if you're, let's say, Scotland, if you get drawn against Italy and Spain in your European Championship qualifying group, you're virtually out before you'd even, and this gives you another avenue in. So no, I'm all for it. I mean, hopefully the managers take it seriously, because there's no reason not to.
No, great explanation, Mark. And also the other thing, of course, is it avoids countries arranging friendlies to try and get votes for an upcoming hosting and all that sort of stuff. So,
or not arranging friendlies just to protect your ranking as well.
Yeah, exactly. No, all good. Right, we're right behind it. Who wins it then, Mark?
I think Belgium are a decent price. They're in what I think to be the best group with Switzerland and Iceland. I think they'll win that pretty comfortably. And they've been in the notebook to win it ever since Roberto Martinez took the fourth game really seriously. Okay, and they had the open top bus for finishing third. This golden generation haven't got too many more opportunities to get a trophy on the board. There is the next Euros, but that'll be it. So I think they'll take it pretty seriously, and they've got decent depth to their squad, as they showed when they rotated and still beat England. And as you said, throughout the World Cup, they've got really good players in just about every position. I thought Roberto Martinez proved himself to not be the calamity coach that many thought he would be, myself included. I think they've got as good a chance as anybody.
Great. Maliki, do we have any betting on who wins the Nations League?
Yeah, we do indeed. So Spain are the favourites at 4-1. Belgium and France are both joint second favourites at 5-1. Germany are 11-2. Then there's a drop to Italy at 10-1. England at 11-1. Croatia 16s, Portugal 16s, and then it's 30s bar.
Fantastic. Good. Right, that was great, Mark. Thank you very much. That has whetted our appetites. Now then, Maliki, my other question for you is this. What has been the biggest surprise of the season so far? It might be a player you thought was going to be rubbish who's turned out to be brilliant. A team you're expecting to be good have been rubbish. It could be anything. What surprised you most so far?
Watford have surprised me, I suppose, but that's an easy one. But I would say United. I don't know how big of a surprise it was to some people. I think it might have been a bigger shock to people who hadn't really been following the pre-season or didn't think that it was worth that much attention. It's only a few pre-season friendlies of that, but I kind of thought a lot of us thought in the office it's been building up for a while. Mourinho's attitude in pre-season, his treatment of the youth players, or the way he discussed them during the pre-season tour, where he was saying that to fans, I wouldn't come to watch these games myself, and we don't have a proper squad, and just kind of constant negativity. For them to start the season poorly wasn't a shock, but just how poor they've been, I think, has been surprising. I didn't think they were good in the first game against Leicester. I actually thought they were lucky to be 2-0 up and were lucky to get away with a win in that game. I thought Leicester were quite impressive against them, and since then they've kind of just been, they've been quite poor. They played well against Spurs for parts of the first half. I saw people saying online then that it was the best they've seen United play in a long time. I think that kind of speaks volumes about, you wouldn't hear someone saying that if Fergie was the manager, because it comes to a thing where Mourinho has said for ages the style of play is irrelevant, it's all about the results, and now when the results are going negatively he's saying, oh well, look, we're playing well. So you can't have it both ways. I think they're not playing well, and I think they're getting results that they deserve. I think Spurs deserve to beat them. 3-0 might have been flattering, but I think they're in a spot of bother, and their next game is away to Watford, if I'm not mistaken.
Interesting.
Which is going to be an interesting game, because Mourinho is under significant pressure himself. Pressure I think he's brought on himself, but I think the biggest surprise this season would be if he's still there at Christmas, for me, to be honest. I don't know if he'll be the first manager gone, but I think they're going to continue to get poor results, and I think eventually the plug is going to be pulled on him.
Where do you have them finishing this season, Maliki?
Well, outside the top four anyway, but probably fifth if I had to make a singular position, because despite the fact I think Unai Emery is a good manager, and I am hoping he will turn things around with Arsenal, they seem to be very poorly rated, and they did struggle at the weekend again. Might take them a little bit longer to gel. I think it depends on how long Mourinho's there, because if things stay poor, then the longer he stays, the harder it is going to be for whoever comes in to replace him to recover the situation. I think the players are most definitely there, but I mean, if he's still there 4, 5, 6 months into the season, it could be too late for them to catch up to fourth. I don't think they'll make the top 4.
No, they can't mess around. They've got to be in the Champions League next season. Dan, which of those questions are you going to answer?
I'm going to take the Nations League one. I'm going to mention a couple of things. On the outright, it's going to be Poland and Italy and Portugal are all in the same group of bid to host the tournament. So one of them, whoever basically wins that group, is going to host the finals tournament next summer. So, I mean, I heard there is Malachy saying 33's bar. I mean, Poland would interest me as a value outright pick, especially because there's quite a small sample of games. You know, there's a chance that a nation that gets it right for in a small sample of games could go well, maybe at a big price. So I would just mention Poland there, that they could be hosts if they win their section. And the something about no downsides to it. I think there is a downside to it in the we don't really know yet what's going to happen with World Cup qualification. I mean, we're assuming now that this Nations League is up and running, that it's going to take some places as well for the World Cup. Now, there's going to be an incentive, certainly maybe in the last couple of games of the Nations League. If you can't win your group and it's out of coming second or third, I mean, you look at Scotland's situation, for example. If they get relegated from their league, they could go into that bottom section with those very weak countries, and they can give themselves, you know, on the face of it, a fantastic chance possibly of qualifying for the next World Cup. So that's just something I would throw in there. So the World
Cup's involved, or the
Euro? No, this is every 2-year competition. Now, they haven't said yet, you know, there's going to be obviously less qualification places for the World Cup, but they haven't actually said how it's going to work yet, World Cup qualification. But you would be surprised if they're going to do this every 2 years, and then in the next Nations League not throw up some qualification spots for the World Cup.
I've got you. That makes sense. Okay, Mark, which question are you going to answer?
I'll take the one about which teams are being backed and opposed. Sort of take Malachy's point on. He mentioned quite a few in the Premier League. There, Watford are interesting ones because I think in terms of like winning the ball back in a certain period of time, they're coming up third at the moment in the analytics behind Man City and Chelsea. So definitely got the press going on really well there as one of the things that they're doing excellently. But it's all about Barnsley in League One for me. I mean, they are getting heavily supported at the moment. They're not favourites to win League One. I suspect when they play Sunderland, people see then that they're rated higher than them. They are a team, I think, that are going to... Could be the Wigan. Last season in League One, Blackburn were the team that came down with a bigger reputation, were favourites. Wigan were the team with all the shot data, and eventually people started to realise that Wigan were the best team in the league. I think that they'll do the same with Barnsley.
Well, that's interesting. I spoke to Neil Ardley yesterday, the Wimbledon manager, and he said that they've played them both, and he's far more impressed with Barnsley than Sunderland. Well, he said the only thing is that he hears that the manager is working the players incredibly hard, and he said that can come back and haunt you a little bit in the latter stages of the season. But he was really impressed with Barnsley. Yeah. Jolly good. And Malachy, which question are you going to answer?
So I'll take the one you asked Mark about the Young Player of the Year. So I have a very good point actually on the English bias in the award. So I actually was looking at this recently when I was checking Naby Keita's price, because I backed him before the season started, and 7 of the last 10 players to win it have been English players, so there definitely is a bias in that. My angle for backing Keita, and I only backed him at a similar price as he is now, was that the top 4 out of 5 in the betting was Raheem Sterling, Sane, Gabriel Jesus and Bernardo Silva before the season started, and I just felt with 4 of them playing for City they were going to take votes of each other. And I know Sane got it last year and he had a brilliant season, but for me, Naby Keita, when I saw he was in the betting, I thought he was overage for it.
Yeah, I know, there's a few in there. I can't believe how young they are.
Yeah, you have to be 23 when the season starts. So when I saw him in the betting, and I have seen him play before, I do rate him quite highly. I was disappointed to see him dropped actually for the last game, but I think that was more of a fitness thing or adjustment as opposed to him actually not rating him, which he obviously will be a starter throughout the season. So if I was telling someone to have a bet now, I'd still think that there's a bit of value in him at 7-1, and I also think the point again about Ruben Neves, he's 18-1. I think he's backable as well. He's just a very, very good player.
I see Aaron Wan-Bissaka's 50-1. What a price. OK, back in a mo with Thursday's live games.
Success ain't earned, it's bought. That's why at Paddy Power, we paid the big bucks for the best tech nerds in the world to develop our new, fastest ever app. Download the new app from the App Store or Play Store now. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
Right then, so the Nations League kicks off on Thursday with Wales versus Ireland, 7:45 on Sky Sports. Malachy, how do Paddy Power bet on that?
So Wales are the favourites here at 10-11. Ireland are 10-3, and the draw is 21-10.
Right, Malachy, we'll stay with you, a proud Irishman. Do you think you've gone a little bit too big on your boys?
No, I think they should be bigger, to be honest. I think that Wales at just a touch of odds on is backable. It's, to be honest with you, it's got the makings of a very, very poor match. Ireland are missing a lot of players, so Arthur's out, McLean, Long, Robbie Brady, Brown. Like there are a lot of players missing for Ireland. I was reading an interesting stat, like there's only 8 Premier League players in the Ireland squad, and I think 7 of them are defenders, so that doesn't really lend itself to great attacking football. But a similar stat to that, though, that there's 9 Premier League players in the Wales squad, and they've actually managed less starts than the Irish players in the Premiership this season. I just don't see this game having anything about it at all. I think it could be a spark of creativity from Bale that wins it, or one player I think is a big price in the first goal score betting is Shane Duffy for Ireland. I think their best chance of scoring here is going to be from a set piece, whether it be a free kick or a corner. Duffy doesn't have the most prolific goal scoring record, but he is targeted more in internationals for Ireland because he is quite decent in the air. So there's 40-1 about him first goal scorer. I think he was a similar price or slightly shorter against Denmark, and he got the first goal in that game. I think Ireland are just going to hope for a smash and grab here because I don't really see it having anything. There'll be very few chances in this game, and I mean, you're talking about a potential 0-0 from the start. Okay,
Dan, do you share Malachy's lack of enthusiasm for this fixture?
What I've got is an enthusiasm for a bet, which is I think Wales are a great bet at a shade of odds on here. You look at the other thing about the group as well is we've got to mention the fact that Denmark are also in the group. Wales have got to play Denmark. That's their second fixture of this first set of games, and Denmark have not got any of their main players available.
They're
playing the futsal. They lost 3-0 to Slovakia in a friendly last night. The shot count I think was 16-2 for Slovakia. So you got futsal players and no players from the first. From the top or second tiers in Danish football, so you got a complete joke Danish side for these first 2 games. But what you got to remember is this dispute could well be sorted out by the time Denmark play Ireland in Dublin next month. So that gives Wales, in their head-to-head with Ireland, a great advantage that they could get an easy 3 points against Denmark away. And so if they can beat Ireland as well, they're in a fantastic position to go and win the group. Also, as Malachy's mentioned, the Ireland injuries. I mean, they've not got the greatest squad anyway. And once you take, 5 or 6 of their regular players out of the side, I know that defence is quite decent, but where's the protection for it going to come? The midfield looks weak. McCarthy's been injured many times. Harry Arter's had a row with Roy Keane and withdrawn from the squad as well. So and Wales actually, I think they could do all right in the next couple of years. They've got obviously a reliance on Gareth Bale. You've got Aaron Ramsey in there, who's been for a while. Joe Allen, he's dropped down to the Championship, but he's been a good player for Wales for a few years, a decent player. And you've got youngsters coming through. You've got Brooks, who Bournemouth have signed, and he's gone straight into their team.
Everyone talks very highly of him, doesn't they?
So he's coming in there. Ben Woodburn progressing as well. Harry Wilson as well, who's coming in. So they've got a few young attacking players.
Hennessy's playing well even.
Yeah, Hennessy as well in goal. So, but you've got a few decent attacking players that could lend Bale a hand as well. And I think it's quite exciting for Wales over the next couple of years. I think they could, they've got a great chance of winning this group, and given Ireland's weaknesses, I think a shade of odds on for Wales is a great price.
Right, Dan, that's as effusive as I've ever known you on a postcast. Mark, do you share Dan's enthusiasm for Wales?
A little bit. I think the win. I don't know if I'd describe them as a great bet. Somebody was telling me the Wales to win 1-0. Gareth Bale was very popular a couple of years ago under Chris Coleman, and this looks to me to be the ripe for a Gareth Bale 1-0 Wales. I don't see where Ireland's goals are coming from. I'm still nervous about where Wales will score from if it's not Gareth Bale. But, you know, you've got one superstar in the team. He's playing really well for Real Madrid, scored in his last 7 La Liga matches now. Seems to be revelling in the fact that Cristiano Ronaldo is no longer in Madrid. I think that, you know, him and Ramsey, when they qualified and reached the semis of the Euros, they were making themselves available all the time. And then in the last qualifying campaign, through injury, one of them, you know, didn't get their best team out often enough, and that's probably why they kind of slipped down and didn't qualify for the World Cup. I think that they should beat Ireland, but I don't expect it to be a classic game.
So this is a first for us, a scorecast.
Well, I mean, I'd rather back something like that than you know, Wales at odds on.
Malachy, have you been tapping away to give us 1-0 Wales with Bale getting the goal? Okay.
So you can combine the two selections in our new feature, the same game multi, and it is 12-1 for Bale to score first and Wales to win 1-0.
That's about as short as I've ever known a scorecast.
Oh no! Do you remember when Kevin Phillips used to score all of Sunderland's goals? There used to be that under Noel Quinn up front with him and Peter Reid in charge. That the Sunderland 1-0 used to go off very short.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Well, maybe a slightly higher quality affair in the other Sky game. It's the last 2 world champions, Germany hosting France at 7:45. What's the betting on this one, Malachy?
So Germany are favourites here now at 13-10. France are 2-1, and the draw is 9-4.
Mark, a really interesting game, isn't it? Germany need redemption. France obviously so impressive when cruising to victory a couple of months ago. What do you think will happen here?
Yeah, slightly disappointed that the money has come for Germany, because at one stage, sort of earlier on this week, bookmakers were struggling to find a favourite, and I thought that Germany at the Allianz in Munich had to be favourites against France. Tim Vickery made a good point about World Cups. He said it's like football in fast forward, like, you know, you just make up all these mad ideas on the back of like 2 matches or something like that. I mean, Germany had reached 6 semi-finals in a row prior to their, you know, admittedly, you know, disastrous World Cup. I think the Nations League is far more important for Jogi Löw and the German national team than it is for France. I just won, you know, if you've won the World Cup, are you that bothered about the Nations League? I think it's one of them. You know, maybe they've just got such good players that it doesn't actually matter. But I think that this game is really important for Germany, and I think that they'll be more focused, and I think that they'll win the game.
Was Löw under any pressure to go?
Oh God, yeah, he was from certain parts. There's no doubt about that. But his record, I think, has enabled him one bad tournament. You know, he'd been there. He was assistant to Jurgen Klinsmann in 2006, and every other tournament since then, they've reached at least the semi-finals. I mean, I think you should be allowed one bad one in 10 years. And that's not. They won the Confederations Cup, and I just wonder if that's a similar kind of mentality to the Nations League, where it's not quite a major tournament, but it's important enough to care about. So yeah, I'll go for Germany.
Dan, who are you going for?
France for me. I was struggling to split these two when the prices were sort of, you know, your choice, but I think with the drift, I mean, I'm not sure if France have got any injuries that we're unaware of, whether that's to do with the drift. But as we sit here now,
any sex tapes flying around?
Well, yeah.
Maybe we don't know about.
As we sit here now, looking at the 2 squads, I mean, obviously Lloris is unavailable. But you got Areola, who plays in goal for PSG, so I don't see that as a big weakness for them. You've still got all the big players from the World Cup. You know, your Griezmanns, your Pogbas, your Mbappes, Kante. Titi and Varane at centre back. To me, it's a team. I think they won the World Cup despite being a little bit, well, quite a bit under par what they could actually reach. I think they're going to get better, and this could even be the start of that. It's the ideal game to have after a World Cup, because there's a chance that you might have a little bit of a come down after winning a World Cup. But it's a big fixture for them. I think they'll be prepared for it, and I just think they're a better side than Germany. I think Germany have been in decline for a little while now. I thought at the Euros, the 2 years before, when France knocked them out, beat them 2-0 in the semis, there was a sign that they were in a bit of decline then, and I think it's carrying on. And I'm not so sure that they're going to. I think they'll qualify comfortably for the next Euros, but I'm not so sure that they're going to be one of the real big threats to win that. So,
okay, we've got a split decision in the studio. Malachy, who are you going to go for?
I'm going to go for the draw here, actually, just to make it nice and awkward. I'd actually agree with the lads, both of their sentiments there. So the money has come for Germany, and you would have to be a little bit concerned about how seriously France are going to take it. So the thing with the Nations League as well is the lower down you go in it, the more important it is to the teams. So at the end of the day, for both France and Germany, it pretty much is still a friendly, because they're both going to fancy their chances to qualify for the competition regardless of qualifying via this route. So when you look at it in that regard, I mean, Germany kind of would take this as an ideal game. I saw some of the players saying the team they would want to play would be France, the World Cup winners. France, on the other hand, I mean, they're coming off the high of winning the World Cup. I'm not sure how much they're gonna be worried about tonight's fixture. I was reading up on some stats, like it's a small sample size, but after Portugal won the Euros, they lost their next competitive game to Switzerland 2-0. When Germany won the last World Cup, in their 4 following games, they lost to Argentina 4-2, they lost to Poland, and they drew at home to Ireland. So I mean, I wouldn't read too much into that, but teams coming off the biggest trophy of them all, I don't know how seriously they would take a game, and that probably is why the money has come for Germany. The bet I would be having in this would be over 2.5 goals. I don't see any reason for either teams to be shutting up shop or sitting tight, because they might as well just go for it. So over 2.5 goals at 10-11 is what I've gone for.
How many subs are they allowed to make, Mark?
No, I think it's a competitive game as far as I'm aware.
See, I wondered whether they might, as a sort of concession, not just to the former friendlies, but to the clubs, actually allow them to make slightly more subs than they normally would do. No, because in a friendly you go there and you make 6 subs, don't you? And it's all a bit.
I'm pretty sure they're just treating it as.
I'm sure you're right, but I wouldn't have thought the clubs are too mad on that. Okay then, right, we'll be back with the Saturday games, the Saturday naps, and a look ahead to the following week in just a mo.
Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Simply place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week, and you'll get a free £10 bet then next week. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome back, Bruce Millington, Mark Langdon, Dan Childs and Paddy Powers. Malachy Rooney looking ahead to Saturday's 2 live Nations League games on Sky. 2 o'clock, Northern Ireland versus Bosnia and Herzegovina. How do you bet, Malachy?
So the betting here is Northern Ireland are 2-1. The draw is also 2-1, and Bosnia will be 13-8.
Do you take issue with those odds, Dan?
No, not really. I think the draw is the value there that sort of screams out to me. I mean, both Northern Ireland, you know what you're going to get from them. They're very well organised. Their best players are at the back. You've got Craig Cathcart, Johnny Evans, centre backs, Premier League, standard centre backs. Chris Brunt, I don't know if he's retired, but I noticed he wasn't in the squad, so that's a bit of a loss to them. Cole Lafferty, the main striker that they rely on, he scored 2 goals on his Rangers debut, so he's in a bit of form. But there isn't a great deal about Northern Ireland going forward. Bosnia, you've got Miralem Pjanic, their best player in midfield. Dzeko's still going for them up front as well. They've got a few injuries. I noticed in their squad, 2 of their centre backs, Vranjes from Anderlecht and Bikakcic from Hoffenheim, both injured. So that's a bit of a weakness for them. But all in all, I would say not many goals in the game, and that raises the possibility of a draw. So draw 2-1 for me.
Mark?
Yeah, the draw for me as well. I mean, you have a look at Bosnia's recent matches: 0-0 with USA, 0-0 with Senegal, 0-0 with Montenegro. They lost 1-0 to Mexico, and they beat South Korea. But even though they've got Pjanic and Dzeko, there's 2 top players there. But they haven't really got much around that. And sometimes you can, like, Dzeko gets isolated, I think, when he plays for Bosnia, because he hasn't got that quality. I mean, Pjanic gives you a certain supply line, but at Roma he's got quality wingers putting in crosses, and the Bosnia just don't have that quality around to sort of bring the best out of him. It's an important game for both teams, because this may be a route that they see it's definitely a worthy backup one. So I think it's an important game, and I think the draw and maybe even no goal scorer become big runners. 2 votes for the draw. What do you reckon, Malachy?
Yeah, no, I'm with the lads here. Not to be a pessimist again, but I mean, this is the makings of another awful match. Northern Ireland haven't scored in 5 of their last 6 matches, and Bosnia failed to score in 4 of their last 6, so I think they're both going to struggle to break the deadlock here. I've gone for under 1.5 goals at 6-4, and I think the 0-0 here at 5-1, and it's 5-1 in the Wales-Ireland game, so if you wanted to double them up, it's 35-1 for the 2-0-alls for the 2 Irish teams.
He's dragged the mood down. I love the way you start that with, I'm not being pessimistic, but it's the most
that's a no goal scorer double. Yeah.
Right, let's see if we can get a little bit more juiced up for the 7:45 game at Wembley, England versus Spain. What's the latest betting, Malachy?
So England are 6-4 in the betting here. Spain are 7-4 in the draw is 2-1.
Malachy, we'll stick with you with your unbiased view. What do you think?
I'm going to go anti-England here. So
it is a biased view.
Anti all the home nations and everything. But I think Spain are a touch big here. They do have generally a good record in friendlies or in whatever you want to call this competition. I think they'll take it seriously enough. I think they're a much better team than England. I think they've got quality all over the pitch. They're favourites for the tournament, so everyone knows what they have about them. There's 2 injury concerns. I think Sterling is out, if I'm not mistaken, and so is Diego Costa, withdrawn from the squad. Looking at like what I would figure would be 2 strong lineups, I can't see either team resting players or anything like that. I think they're both going to go for the game. It has the makings of quite a good match, actually. I think there could be a few goals here. So I like Spain to win the game, and if you wanted a bit of an outside shot, Sergio Ramos, if he's on penalties, is 16-1 first goal scorer, so that mightn't be the worst for the long shot.
Thank you, Mel. Mark, what do you make of this? It's weird only having 2 Barca players in a Spain squad, isn't it?
Even weirder when Luis Enrique was the Barcelona manager, has dropped some of them, including Jordi Alba. Interesting what must have gone on there, because Alonso started the season well for Chelsea, but Jordi Alba's better than Marcus Alonso, so it's clearly not football related. I was thinking the draw maybe is the bet here. England it always feels like they're motivated, whether I don't know if it's going to be like a friendly or if it's going to be treated seriously, but England, when it's been like in this friendly kind of nature, they can't really play like that. And so I expect a decent performance. There's obviously the Wembley homecoming for what was a good tournament, and I think Spain maybe would settle for a point away from home in what is a difficult enough game for them. Luis Enrique has changed a lot in his short spell as manager in terms of rules for the team, and
tighter, more stringent.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, in terms of all players must report for breakfast, which wasn't always the case in previous Spanish teams. Not many of them are morning people. But he's moved training back so that they've all got to go to breakfast. There's certain rules on sort of diet. They lost their way a little bit, didn't they, in the World Cup with Lopetegui leaving for Real Madrid and getting the sack. But they're still a good side, Spain. I'm just not sure that they'll beat a motivated England. So the draw for me.
I remember Didi Hamann telling me that he used to room with Xavi Alonso at Liverpool, and I said, was he a good roommate? He goes, yeah. He could fall asleep in a washing machine.
I think that there is.
He wouldn't have made breakfast.
No, he wouldn't have made breakfast, but he would be made to under the new regime.
Blimey, Dan, what do you make of this game?
I'm going to go a little bit further towards the positivity towards England, and I'll go England shade of odds on the draw, no bet. I think Spain they've had a few retirements as well since the World Cup. You've got Piqué, David Silva, Iniesta retired, Costa as well. They haven't got loads of centre forward attacking options, so Costa as well withdrawing from the squad is a bit of a blow for them. England obviously rely a lot on Harry Kane, but at least they have got Harry Kane. They have got a world-class striker in the ranks, and I think that might make the difference. I look back to, as Mark's mentioned, England do tend to turn up. I know this isn't a friendly, but it's possibly more similar to a friendly than a qualifying kind of match.
You never see him turn it in against anyone.
No. And the last time at Wembley, I think it was 2-2, and I think Spain scored in the 89th and 90th minutes to get the draw. And I think England, you can go overboard about the World Cup because they had a very, very fair win with a draw on that, but I think they have progressed England over the last 2 years. So given that and the Spain players, a few retired and a few that are not in the squad, I would just favour England at a shade of odds on draw, no bet.
OK, let's get the naps.
This will not be beaten.
Right, then this of course brings in not just the internationals but the domestic and goodness knows what else is going on around the world. So Mark, what have you got for us?
I'm sticking to the internationals actually. Low down, mentioned the importance of it. Luxembourg, draw no bet against Moldova. Luxembourg's form actually is pretty good. They beat Georgia, they drew with Senegal. I thought Senegal were quite good at the World Cup. They drew away to France, and Dudelange, their club team, have just made it through to the Europa League group stages for the first time, which I think goes to show that there is this upward trajectory in terms of the quality of their form. Moldova, you just can't say the same about them. They've been a terrible team for a long time now. It's a almost pick 'em game. I think draw no bet, Luxembourg at home is fair enough.
Dan?
I'm going to go to League Two, Northampton at home to Cheltenham. Northampton were expected to be towards the top of League Two, having come down from League One. They've had a bit of a slow start, but they picked it up recently. Got a 2-1 win at Colchester, who are going well, and then they drew 1-1 at home to Tranmere, but they're quite dominant in that game. Cheltenham, on the other hand, 4 points from their 6 games, only scored 3 goals as well. They're really missing Mohamed Issa, who got 23 of the goals last season. So Northampton are odds on at home to Cheltenham.
Who's your Nat Maliki?
I'm going to stick to the international as well, and one we mentioned before. I'm going to go with under 1.5 goals in the Northern Ireland versus Bosnia game at 6-4. I think it's a cracking price.
Okay, I'm going to go for Leyton Orient at 6-4. They're going well under Justin Edinburgh. They are at Halifax this weekend. And we say farewell to our lovely producer, Jack McCarran, who is going back to live in Ireland. Thank you so much for your help on the Postcast, Jack. You've been a superstar. Sign off with a winning nap for us. What have you got? Blimey, that's a long one, this. Jack's just come on and told me the FAI quarter-final, Waterford City, draw no bet?
No, Waterford to beat UCD with both teams scoring.
Right, OK, I hope you got that. Well done, Jack. Thank you very much. That means I'd have to find out what the result was now. Can't even remember the bet. OK, right then, let's take a little look at what we've got beyond the first set of matches. So on Sunday, Denmark's futsal team play Wales. Then we've got France versus the Netherlands. On Monday, we've got Scotland, Albania. Portugal, Italy, Spain versus Croatia. So loads of really good stuff. Anything there that you've got your eye on, Mark? We haven't got any prices, obviously, because they still haven't played their first lot of matches. But anything that might just emerge as a bit of value?
A few things to watch out for. One is that Albania have been doing quite well in some of their recent matches under Panucci, former Italian.
Claudio Panucci?
Christian
Panucci.
So that might be a trickier game than Scotland maybe thought when the draw was made. And I fancy goals in France against the Netherlands. The Dutch side is coming again. They've missed the last 2 qualifiers. The lads from Ajax, De Jong, De Ligt, these are really good players, and I wouldn't be surprised if Holland really started to raise their game. I like over 2.5 goals. I don't think they're good enough defensively to keep out France.
Jolly good. Dan, anything on your horizon?
Spain against Croatia. I'd see what price Spain are, because I mean we talked about a few Spain players that are out, but they have got quite deep resources to replace. Croatia have got lots of players out as well without the depth. You look at Subasic and Mandzukic, both retired. Kramaric, Strinic, Lovren and Rebic, all big parts of their World Cup squad injured. So you've taken out really half of the World Cup final team there, and not going to be easy to replace. So Spain, and just to mention on the Scotland game as well, Mark said about Albania getting stronger. Well, Scotland have got a few key players out. McBurney, who's probably going to be their centre forward going forward, he's out. Tom Kearney out, Ritchie out, and Phillips out. So there's a lot of big players out.
Why does he
Scotland.
not play Jimmy Mack? I mean, he's probably been Palace's best player so far this season. He was terrific back in the last year. I mean, he's really underrated, James MacArthur. I don't get that at all. I think that's absolutely weird. Maliki, what have you got that you're looking at for the latter part of the first lot of Nations League matches?
Well, I think that the Denmark-Wales game is one of the most interesting betting markets on a match I've ever seen. If this was a normal match, Wales would be around a 9-4 shot to win the game away. They have since, with the news of Denmark's players pulling out of the squad, they've been backed in as far as 128 on the machines, so they'd be around a 1-4 shot for the game. Before I come in to do this podcast there about an hour ago, they were actually back out to 11-8 for the match, and since we've been talking, they've been back into 4-5. So, I mean, this is the most volatile betting I've ever seen. There's serious money going on them from all angles and going against them. So, what I can,
if the Denmark team suddenly, if Eriksson, Kasper Schmeichel
are back,
suddenly turn up,
They won the Euros in '92 off the beat, didn't they? So they're ready and raring to go. Wow, this is intriguing.
So I wouldn't be surprised. Like looking at them before I was coming in, I was actually going to mention the point that I think based on the odds, if they've gone from 128 out to 240, that it looks like they would be back. Now the Wales are shortening back in again, so it's one to keep an eye on. I think a lot of firms have pulled the betting on it because it is so, no one really knows what's going on and there's integrity issues there, but it's definitely one to keep an eye on for punters.
Somebody said to me yesterday, was it the biggest move ever, Slovakia went from outsiders to 1 to 20 to win a football match.
Incredible.
Probably the biggest market move there's ever been.
It's
in
amazing,
football.
isn't it? They haven't got a futsal game, Denmark, lined up, have they? Which they're massive outsiders because all their best players are playing for them.
That might be the angle, yeah.
Very interesting. Thank you so much for all your expertise, chaps. Don't forget, if you do enjoy these shows, please make sure you rate, review and subscribe wherever you are listening to us. We've got the Racing Postcast tomorrow, looking ahead to the Haydock Sprint Cup, and we are back next Thursday with another football postcast. Until then, farewell.
Follow Paddy Power on Snapchat. The username is ThePaddyPower, and we promise there won't be any boring snaps about gigs, the weather or the gym.